Hi, my name is George Thornton. I'm the owner of the Homebrewer on El Cajon Boulevard in North Park in beautiful San Diego. Located on El Cajon Boulevard, 2911 space 2, in between Kansas Street and 30th. So today we're going through how to make a 1-gallon batch of a hoppy blonde ale. The blonde ale is a style that comes from pretty much all over the world, and the hoppiness is pretty ideal for the San Diego community, which tends to love their hoppy beers. So this is the Homebrewer 1-gallon Bruna bag, made so that you can brew a 1-gallon batch at home on your stove. It comes with a 1-gallon jug that you're going to ferment your beer into, a vial of iodine, a tube that you're going to use in a couple of weeks when you're bottling to help you get the beer out of the jug and into some bottles. This is a bottling arm. This has a little contraption on there that will help you when you're filling your bottles to keep the liquid from flowing. This is a thermometer that you're going to use while you're steeping your grains. These are the hops that you're going to use during the boil. This is a bag of grains inside a muslin contraption here. This is an airlock. You will fill this with a sanitizing solution to help keep the bugs and other nasties out and let the CO2 out as well. It's a bag of yeast. This is a little screw cap that will hold your airlock nice and easy on there for you. And this is the card that you will use if you have any questions or concerns. You can email us or call us and we'll help get everything going for you. And that's it. That's all you need to brew your first 1-gallon batch of beer. Alright, so step one is I got a gallon of water and I heated it up to about 155 degrees. I'm going to take all of my grains and put them right in there. And I'll kind of slosh them around so that everything gets wet. I'll turn off my flame so that I don't scorch the grains. And then we're just going to let that sit for about 30 minutes, and that's all we need to do. It's okay if we want to stir it around every once in a while just to make sure that all the grains are wet, but other than that, we're just sitting and waiting. Essentially what we've mimicked here is what large brewers do in their mash tun. We're converting all the starches in these grains into sugars, and those sugars the yeast will consume and create alcohol and CO2 among a lot of other things. So after 30 minutes, I'm just going to lift this up. I'm going to let it just hang there. I don't want to squeeze it too much, because if I do that, I'll get some of those tannins that are on the grain husks into our wort, which is essentially unfermented beer, which is what we're making today. And if I do that, I don't really want to boil it because it'll come off really harsh. So what I can do to help get these sugars out of this grain bag is I can take some warm water, about 150 to 170 degrees, and just rinse that on there. So this is mimicking what professional brewers do in a process called sparging and lautering. So we're just essentially rinsing the sugars off of these grains. Once we're done, let that drip a little bit. I can throw that into there and I'll get rid of that later. Now it's time to raise everything up to a boil. So now that we're up to a boil, we're going to add our pre-measured bag. When these Bruna bags come to your house, you're going to just kind of estimate into thirds. So we're going to take 1/3 of these hops and just add them at the beginning of the boil. 30 minutes later, we're going to take 1/3 of hops and add those to the boil. And then at the very end of the boil, at 0 minutes, right when we turn off the flame, we're going to add the rest of those hops. Once your wort is done boiling, now you have to get it into your glass jug. And you want to cool it down a little before you do that. So when you're at home, what you can do is make an ice bath either in a large bowl or in your sink. And that'll just take about 10-20 minutes for it to cool down. So once you have it cool enough, take it. If you have a funnel, you just gently pour that wort right in there. And you see that we're doing a lot of splashing. That's okay once your wort is below the temperature of about 80 degrees. All that air in there is going to be a good thing for your yeast. They'll consume that air and start eating up all those sugars that you've created for them. So now that we have this chilled, we can shake it around a little bit more. We are, of course, being careful with sanitation. That's one of the most important things of being a brewer, is make sure that everything's clean and sterilized. So everything that you've seen us do today, we have sterilized this beforehand. So I'm going to get rid of this sterilized funnel. I have my airlock filled with some of my sanitizing solution that I used before. It's just been resting on this piece of sanitized foil there. And I'm just going to screw that cap on. Give it a few more shakes. Make sure it's really aerated. If you can do this for 2 or 3 minutes, that's really going to help your yeast get all the oxygen that they like. Now that we're ready, take my yeast. This is a dry English yeast. There are 2 types of yeast out there mostly. There's dry yeast that looks like this, and then there's liquid yeast, which comes in a vial or in a little pouch. The dry yeast tends to store a little bit better, so that's why we're including it in our kits. So I'll take my cap off. Add my yeast. Put the cap back on. Give it a couple of shakes again. And then I want to store this in a cool, dark place, somewhere that's around 70 degrees. Anywhere that avoids a lot of temperature fluctuations. If the temperature goes up and down a lot, the yeast might decide just to call it quits and hibernate throughout the rest of the time. After about 1 week, your beer starts to look like this. After about a week and a half, once everything's cleared out, then it's time to bottle. So thanks for taking part in our lesson on 1-gallon batches, something that's really easy and fun to do at home in your kitchen. If you need more info or just some tips, you can call us at 619-450-6165, or just come down and visit us at the Homebrewer on El Cajon Boulevard, San Diego in North Park, between Kansas and 30th Street. Our website is thehomebrewersd.com.